In this lesson, we're going to see how to read data from a file. So let's start a new program. We're going to call this readfile.py. Our first step is to create a file object. So we'll use the first file we created last time, text.txt. And when you open for reading, you use R as the second argument rather than W for write. And now that file becomes available for us to read data from it into our program. So what we can do is we can use the function readLine to read a complete line of text from the file and into a variable. And then we can display it, just like so. So let's run this program. Save it. And type readfile.py. And so it read line 1. So we can modify it. But we can just copy these lines right here. Exit and save again. Whoops, wrong command. There it is right there. Notice that it also included a line feed in there. And that's fine because the line feed was actually in our file. Not a problem when we're working with text so much, although we can strip that out. We're going to learn how to do that in the next chapter. But for right now, what I want to do is look at how we would read a complete file using a loop and then process the data in some way. And the example I want to give is working with the grades.txt file we created in the last chapter. So let's open read file again. We'll comment out the lines that we just ran, and we're going to start from scratch. So what we're going to do is we're going to read the grades from that file and compute the average. So to do that, we're going to need a couple of variables. We need a count and we need the total. The next thing we're going to do is open the file. It's grades.txt. And again, we're opening it to read, so R is the second argument there. Before we go into the loop, we want to read the first grade, and I'll explain why in just a second. So we're going to read it in using our read line, understanding that we're reading it in as a string, and we're going to convert it. Now we want to start the loop, and we're going to loop while there is a grade to read. So in other words, while this is not empty string, while it's not empty, then we want to loop. So this will work as one means of looping through the file without trying to go beyond the end of the file. In the next chapter, when we talk about the for loop, we'll talk about how to do the same thing using what's called a file iterator. And it's most naturally performed with a for loop, and we'll discuss that in the next chapter. But for now, this technique will work just fine. So we've read in a grade. Let's print the grade just so we can see it. Then we want to increment our count by 1. And then we want to add the grade to our total. So to do that, we need to convert the grade to an integer. So that's why we do int grade right here. Because remember, at this point, it's still a string. Then the last step is to read another grade from the file. So we do the endFile.readLine function, and that will be the end of the loop. Once we're out of data, when there's nothing to read, this will be empty, and that will make this expression become false. Then we can compute the average by count, and then we can display the average. Remember, we've got to convert that to string, just like so. So let's exit and save, clear the screen, and then run the program. So there are our grades, 100, 93, 87, 72, and 66. And the average is 83. So again, looking at the code, we open the file initially, read in one grade, loop while there are grades to read, perform our tasks, which are printing the grade, incrementing the count, and adding the grade to the total, and then perform another read, understanding that when we're out of data, grade variable will be empty, and that will cause the loop to stop because this will become the equivalent of false. So that's how you would read the data from a text file using a while loop. And like I said earlier, there is a more natural way to do this in Python, and that's to use what's called a file iterator with a for loop. And we'll demonstrate that later on in the next chapter as we're discussing for loops. But for now, we're ready to move to the exercises for this chapter on while loops.